So a topic that I've been chewing on a lot lately is this idea of sacred space. And in regards to psychology, I just want to use sacred in its technical sense, which means very literally to set apart for a specific use. So when I think of sacred space, you can think of it in religious context, like a church or like an altar or something is set apart for a specific use. But also in our personal lives, we have other spaces that we ideally are setting apart for a specific use, like a kitchen, like a bedroom, like an office, like a bathroom. You don't prepare meals in a bathroom, to be kind of crass about it, because those spaces are set apart for very specific uses. Um, and one of the challenges that I'm seeing come up, particularly when I'm working with clients lately, is just in COVID, a lot of our set apart spaces are being denied to us. And that's forcing us to also reimagine what our spaces look like. So key example is working from home. A lot of people I talk to don't have home offices per se. So they're working in the kitchen or they're working in the family room. And guess what? Families there, they're trying to do kitchen stuff in the kitchen, or they're making noise in the family room or something. And when spaces are being used for different purposes than they were originally intended, you start crossing wires. We're beings that are meant to be in context. We take our cues from the environment around us. If we're in our bedroom and we're working from our bedroom, then it's like when you're falling asleep at night, is it easy to let go of thoughts of work, or do they start clouding your mind? Or if you're working in the same space that you play in, how easy is it to stay focused on your thoughts when all your other cues are like, hey, I also play in this room.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. And I think that work from home thing, even if you have an office space, for my home, where I don't have an office space actually, but it's also, where does the Wi-Fi work? And that's what I hear and see with people is it's like, yeah, you might have an office, but the Wi-Fi doesn't work in there. It works in the kitchen or the living room. And it is, I mean, it's good to notice that strangeness and that what is set apart. And then the history, for thousands of years, maybe millions, because I don't know if they had offices back in caveman days, but it's worked. It's worked to have that separateness, boundaries.
Yes, this is very much a conversation around boundaries. And I think the more we learn about boundaries, the more we really have conversations around it, the more I think it's become important to really acknowledge that boundaries are actually helpful for good contact. And a lot of the clients I'm working with are realizing when we start blending our spaces, it's really hard to be intentional and respectful of each other's roles that we share in those spaces. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy making. It's literally crazy making. I'm working in the family room and my family's making all this noise. And it's like, hey, can you respect my role that I'm trying to fulfill in this space? And it makes for a lot harder connection in families when we don't have clear distinctions, clear boundaries around how we do things and where we do things.
Yeah. And there's so many things to notice about the boundaries, right? So boundary is actually something that like literally geographically holds things in place.
Yes.
Or it presents this containment. So, I mean, a boundary around animals, obviously it's holding things in place. Yeah. But when I think of a boundary literally instead of relationally or emotionally, actually, boundary does help to hold emotions in space. Boundaries are useful for containment. And now 100%. Here we are in this weird space too, where it's like things are starting to open up. We're going to have more freedom. We're going to be posed with these questions about what things do we go back to? And some of that will be about our physical spaces.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's huge. Even when we talk about things like anxiety, a lot of the work that I try to do is try to get some walls and a floor and a ceiling, so to say, on the anxiety so that it has a space that has limits to it. One of the challenges with so much anxiety that we deal with is, where's the bottom? It feels bottomless. It's this abyss. And if we can start defining boundaries on it, it becomes much more manageable to work with.
Yeah, I like that analogy. Like it's like when we bring everything into our home, and this is part of the COVID stress, the COVID fatigue, the pandemic burnout, is that we are mixing church and state, so to speak, to borrow another metaphor.
Yeah.
And it's that infringement. I expect things of my 3 and 4-year-old that are not really part of their job description when I'm bringing all my work into the home.
Yeah.
And so literally, and then figuratively, like if I'm viewing myself as a home, what areas of this space, this sacred space, where is this sacred space internally for work stress, for client sanctuary, or I don't know, so many varieties of thoughts to think about.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the really interesting pieces of work I did in the past is this idea where I was working with somebody who didn't grow up with 4 walls to the room. It was only 2, and just a rough divider there. And doors were always an issue too. And we're like, okay, these are concrete things, but your nervous system is always trying to say, well, how do I control what's coming in and what's going out? How do I have a sense of this is my space? And that impacts how we even view ourselves, our own, like you say, sacred space. If it's missing a wall, we don't have the safety that we need.
Yeah. And so I think here, Tony, too, because this is really good piece. Part of what I'm hearing for you and for me is like, first off, we just need to hold some space to contemplate like how our boundaries have actually been impacted and infringed on.
Yep.
And as our expectation right now is that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Is okay. So now I'm going to be challenged on dividing myself, taking separation from my home. And so how do we do that? Like, what are we going to do here to just challenge ourselves back to some healthy boundaries?
Yeah, no, that's huge. Did you have something in mind with that even?
Right? I know. Well, I think part of it is just thinking. And then the other thing that I'm realizing is for many people, it's going to be hard. Like, I think there's just this honesty that, hey, if you've been in your home, if you've been working from home more than others, this is going to be hard, and that's okay. Like, it's going to take anytime we start something new, or this will be a restarting of something that was once familiar. It's kind of like the first day of school syndrome, people.
Yep.
So whatever you need to do to get through that first day of school, to go back into the office. And I mean, if you need a new outfit, if you want some new lotion or perfume, if you got to make yourself a special lunch, like whatever it is, those things are normal. That's how we support children and adolescents every September. There's nothing wrong with that. And the other truth is that's going to take a week or two to feel like, oh, right, this is okay. It's okay to come back. It's okay to, I like this. This is what we do. This is what we do.
100%. And I think just really being open and acknowledging the transition into a new space is always a little challenging. Our nervous system's always saying, hey, where are my familiar landmarks? How do I know that this is my space and I'm safe in it?
Exactly.
Whenever I have new clients come in, the first thing I'm going to acknowledge is, hey, you took a risk coming out to a new place, seeing a new face. And it's your right to take time to get familiar with my face and familiar with my office.
Yeah.
I don't want you sitting down and locking vision with me without first looking around and saying, hey, there's no surprises here.
Exactly.
And I think it's the same thing when we either go back into the old familiar spaces that we haven't been in a while, or new spaces, and just saying, hey, I have a right to check it out, to be uncomfortable for a bit, and to allow myself time to become more comfortable.
Exactly. Thanks, Tony. This is awesome. Lots to just think about. Remember, boundaries. Yeah. Boundaries are uncomfortable. That's a word, why we don't like the word that much. But okay, awesome. Thanks, Tony.